on.
All right, welcome to the Charles River Conservancy Parkland Show. My name is Renata von Schorner. I'm the founder and president of the Charles River Conservancy, and we're going to talk, as always, about the Charles River and the parklands and a subject that I love to talk about, and that's bicycling.
Me too.
Me too. And I have with me Richard Fries. Welcome.
Yeah. Well, welcome. It's great to be here, and I love to meet people that know how to pronounce my name. So obviously I'm a Swiss background.
Great. So bicycling along the Charles is a very important subject because our mission is to make the parklands more active, attractive and accessible. And of course active is mostly biking. We have a wonderful pathway of bikes and we're going to talk about that. But they need a lot of advocacy. So let's see what MassBike does. And MassBike is a wonderful organization that we have partnered with many times on the underpasses and on other initiatives. Tell us, Richard, you're the Executive Director, what brought you to MassBike and what are some of the missions?
Well, our primary, we were founded in 1977, and the work we do now is completely broader and bigger than what it was when we started. But we educate, we advocate, we connect. And that sounds simple, but when you think about 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts, that's a lot of selectmen's meetings, that's a lot of police departments, that's a lot of engineering and public works. But we really, our biggest goal is working at the state level on big policy with MassDOT, Department of Public Health, filing legislation, getting that legislation passed. Tomorrow I'm meeting with the people that teach cops. That's what I get to do tomorrow. So it's really exciting work. It's a little bit separate sometimes from local bike advocacy, but we work very closely with our friends at Livable Streets and Boston Cyclists Union and other chapters and organizations all over the state. We're busy.
And as an advocate, so you came to it from racing, from journalism, all the things that advocates need to keep going things.
Yeah, well, I started a magazine the same year that the World Wide Web was launched, so you can imagine how that went. But in order to make a magazine work, I had to do sales, and that taught me how to be a marketing person and a development person. But I also love events. I love the sport of cycling, and I love so many elements of just the entire culture of cycling. So I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I don't have a degree in urban planning. I don't understand law, but I know how to throw cocktail parties.
Right. Well, let's look at some of the topics we might want to talk about.
Yeah.
The Charles River Basin is a first for many things. It's you call it the progenitor of bike advocacy. What a wonderful. 40 years of Dr. Paul Dudley White, and still a lot of work to do, and still a lot of work to do on many fronts. So let's go to these lovely two men here.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about them.
Well, the man on the right, of course, is Ike, the famous Dwight D. Eisenhower, under who my father served in World War II. And then it's Paul Dudley White. And at the time, if you think about the 50s, America was going through we were trying to eradicate bicycles for everybody except for children. And we were engineering them right off the streetscape. And Paul Dudley White ends up being the premier cardiologist, figured out that exercise is the greatest thing you can do for your heart. He's Dwight Eisenhower's doctor. Eisenhower has a heart attack. Paul Dudley White comes to the rescue, a Harvard physician, and he really ends up creating the adult cycling movement around that recovering cardiology component. And as a result, we launch a bike path, and the first bike path and I gotta think, at least in Massachusetts, I don't know if there had to be some others, but a little 3-mile stretch on the Cambridge side of the Charles River. Now, we know all these wonderful paths that you know so much in your work. It's hard to believe that it was just the tiniest little strip is what we started with right there on the Charles River, and we now call that the entire network, the Paul Dudley White bike path.
And
people don't know that, who he was.
Dr. Paul Dudley White, there are not many signs left. There used to be a lot of signs along the Charles. And he befriended John Sears, who was the MDC commissioner, and they worked together to do, under the boardwalk, under the BU Bridge, and the underpass at the Elliott Bridge that was just storage. So a lot of things were added to the Dr. Paul Dudley White bike path.
Yeah, and I feel, Renata, that rivers were something that in urban planning, we turned our backs to them in the 20th century. We didn't view them as the way Prague views the river, or think of the Seine in Paris. America just saw them as corridors to build highways along, which we did as well. And but thanks to the hard work of you and crazy hippies like bike advocates, we rediscovered what rivers can be.
And I mean, this is a place which I love in Herder Park, where you're really experiencing the water and the biking. It's a beautiful spot. But let's look at some challenging spots here.
Oh, yeah, we got them.
All right, well, let's see.
We got them.
Let's see if we can get that, see if that, well, now I need to, I don't know whether...
That's me. But,
that's you. Okay.
Yeah, that might
now
be the start of my video
this is I think you have to speak what you would gonna say in the video.
That's fine. Well, basically, this is where I was this morning as well. This is back in September, and this is one of the frustrations of our work. Is right along the Storrow Drive off ramp where it goes over River Street and Cambridge Street in Boston. And there's it's got to be about 80 feet right there to cross, and you've got hundreds of runners, mothers with strollers.
So that's River Street, just to orient you, that is where the turnpike comes into Cambridge.
Correct. There is no signals there for a person on foot or a person on bicycle. So you're left to play a very real and very dangerous game of Frogger, if you will, if you know that video game where everybody's got to dart across. As a cyclist, I'm fine, but I wrote a pretty harsh letter because 6 months later, we still don't have what they said I would have in a month. And I'm working with some great people, Galen Mook, who you probably know, and Harry Madison, and all of our friends in Advocacy. But, you know, if that traffic signal went out for the cars, they'd be down there in an hour. They'd fix it in an hour. But we've been waiting for 30, 40 years just to make a crossing that is safe there. It's really, sometimes you feel like you don't matter.
Yeah, and what you have done is you filmed some other people. Unfortunately, I don't really know how to get the video, but it's wonderful to what you have done, and maybe we can put that on the website of people commenting on their experiences along there.
Well, and you can see there, you know, if you get them on the website, you'll see people of all different stripes on bicycles. Students, which are our #1 job creator, by the way. An undergraduate college student is our #1 job creator in Cambridge and Massachusetts. And we don't treat them well. And these are people getting to those jobs, getting to those classes. You look at some of the sad tragedies lately. A Swiss surgeon, Anita Kerman.
Yeah, and she was not a reckless...
Correct.
I mean, she didn't break any traffic laws. Yeah, it was
an
very
immunologist killed in Porter Square. A graduate school, a master's degree, about to get 5 days from her master's degree. Amanda Phillips,
in Inman Square.
In Inman Square. Oh. So there's some attitudes about bike riders, some of which I can understand why we can frustrate people, but not to that point. Most people are law-abiding, just going places.
Yeah, I have seen a change. You know, I bike everywhere in my yellow jacket on my bike, and I look like a Christmas tree at night. But there has been more respect and more people realize you're not a car that takes up space and smell. But I want to kind of go to a picture of an advocacy that MassBike supported that we have been doing. It's the effort for underpasses. So if there were underpasses, there would be 7 miles of uninterrupted bike lanes, a bike path on the Charles. But we did obviously the River Street Bridge, the Western Avenue Bridge, and the Anderson. And we have been working on this advocacy since about 2008 now. The Anderson Bridge is now moving forward with the design. So I will show a picture of how that looked like. But that is an effort where over 50 groups came together to advocate for that, and over 50 elected officials. So that is what Bikes Group can accomplish.
Well, you know, even if you're a motorist, and I own a car, I think cars are great. I use them on weekends to get to and from cities. But we have to understand that bikes actually help cars move better and not having that intersections. The big thing that I go for in all my advocacy, because I'm not that smart, I don't do engineering, I go by feel and how do you feel on a bicycle. And these underpasses, if you've ever been to, the Netherlands, Denmark, Belgium, the Low Countries, they build separate underpasses. They make you feel like you're safe, like you belong, like you matter. And I go by those feelings a lot.
Yeah. Even just outside the studio on Mass Avenue, they put the bike path between, kind of moved it away from the road, and they separated it with cones and some yellow stuff. Suddenly you feel, oh, this is you're being treated nicely.
Yeah.
And these little spatial separations make a huge difference.
Yeah, and I think it's really important how that you treat people like they matter, and that actually has to go all the way to the enforcement level. We've never had a sober motorist that stayed at the scene of a crash convicted of a crime in the death of a cyclist in America.
Never.
Which is never. So, and we know that half the times there's a crash, it's one or the other's fault, but and that's just sort of a different thing. Is that I think police are a big component of where we're doing our work right now, and that's going to be the next 10, 20 years. Mm-hmm. Exciting times. Lots of work to do now.
Yeah. So we have. Unfortunately, I don't know how to get these people to
That's
talk,
okay, you're doing great.
But she explains of how she got a new bike, and then she comes every morning to the River Street and doesn't know how to cross.
She doesn't know how to cross. And you can see she's not, this is not some reckless messenger with some crazy tattoos. This is just one of our graduate students, one of our young professionals. This gathers up every day. And these people, and what they do is it's almost like you'll see in China or Southeast Asia. You just wait till you get enough people, and then you edge out in, and then you hope.
You hope that you won't be crushed by the cars, because it's not a phase.
Correct.
That is designated for you even.
And you can see a wide variety. You've got the people in the spandex, and you got the people just in t-shirts, and they're just going somewhere. They're not environmentalists. They don't have an agenda. They're not lefties or righties. Yeah. They're just going somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
So but we're fixing these things little by little.
Yeah, and she also speaks in a very moving way of how afraid she is.
Right. And yet she sees how much she enjoys the bike, how it's the best way to get around, and she's giving you her parking space.
Yeah, exactly.
So come on, give it up to her. So
So this is an image of how the Anderson Bridge will look like with an underpass.
Yes.
So we were just got now the green light from the Mass Historical Commission that it's all right to do that underpass. Mass DOT is at 25%. So this advocacy has taken so far 8 years, but we are moving forward, and we have a great group working on it under the leadership of Jack Wofford, and then many groups working on that. So that's great.
Well, and you can see that some of those swerving, curving sections are where we get into problems, and you get extremely narrow sections of the bike path being shared with pedestrians.
Yeah.
Again, it's not like you belong and like you matter. It's more like you're being barely tolerated.
Yeah.
And this shows that, look how welcomed you are. Look at how you're being this is really important work.
Yeah. Well, it takes time and money. As you say, it's like the skate park that took 15 years. You need to have persistent, and you need to have money to do that advocacy.
And like I told you in the green room, that we built the entire interstate highway system coast to coast from nothing, and we did that all in 17 years. A skate park takes 15 years, so go figure. It's a culture. Okay, but we're doing more great work along the Charles.
So a wonderful example where it has improved for bicyclists is the Greener Boulevard.
There we go. And every time I go farther upstream, and Renata, I mean it, I go all the way up to the Upper Charles Path, up in Milford and Hopkinton, and the stretch is way up in the upper reaches. There's so much great stuff being done, but every time I come through this area, I'm so impressed by the work that's been done. Well,
that's been done by Herb Nolan, the Solomon Fund, DCR. That's the way it used to be.
Yeah.
And that's the way it's now. it hasn't officially been inaugurated, so we're waiting for the spring and the grass to come, but the trees seem to have survived the winter. It's a great project, and what a difference that makes.
Well, I love that whenever we integrate children into these drawings. Whenever you look at the drawings of Robert Moses in New York City, he had cars, he had buildings, he had no human beings. And just think of your own childhood as to how important it was to be near water, how magical, water was when you were a child.
And I think that's what you say in your advocacy work. You want to bring in more people, so you have created more chapters so that you can reach out to more people. One person in Boston cannot make all those changes.
You think? Yeah, no, I'm exhausted. Yeah, and we have some great chapters. I was with Paul Chenard in Brockton today, Sean Condon. I was with him on Sunday out in Northampton, where they're doing amazing things. But they really... they want to come back to Cambridge, and they want to learn more about what's going on in Cambridge, in Boston, in somewhere around what's happening around the Charles, but they're doing it. The Connecticut River is having great things happen in places you wouldn't think of. Springfield and Chicopee, for example. These gritty industrial, what we call gateway cities, are really borrowing a lot from Cambridge. And in my meeting with Cambridge officials this week, I said, you don't understand how important it is that you keep going, because the whole world looks to Cambridge for what we do here.
Yeah, I mean, there used to be no sharrows, no green boxes.
Right.
I feel the Inman Square intersection feels so much safer that cars can't turn.
Yeah.
It needs more work to be done, but it's...
And there is a lot, and we need to keep the bar up here. And people are depending on Cambridge, and people are depending on what we're doing in and around the Charles River. And I also like that it extends to Newton. It extends now to Watertown. It extends to Brighton. We're really excited about the I-90 project and what's going to happen with that parcel, which will be really critical. And a lot of people will get jaded, and I'm like, you can't get jaded. You have to look at what's happened in the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah, the I-90 project, and Cambridge is very active in that, and so is the Conservancy. There is an opportunity to create something along the river, not just a good bike path, but a green space, and then connect the river with BU and Brookline. So that is kind of what we're working on.
Yeah.
And this is a 100-acre site that will become a new city on the river. Amazing opportunity, and to get that right for pedestrians and bicyclists is very important.
And residents, and those most important people, those college students, and those very important researchers that we're going to have. And we have to not look at 1965. I always laugh that Fred Flintstone drove a car and George Jetson drove a car. We have to stop thinking like that, like we did in 1965. We have to start thinking about the importance of that river and walking and biking and transit and motors. And we need to respect motors, but slow it down.
You should, I just listened to, in Sesame Street, they just introduced a girl on the autistic scale. And we need to get the kids on Sesame Street to bike. The same thing I remember when my kids were little. They said, well, turn off the water when you brush your teeth. I had never thought of that. These little changes need to happen on Sesame Street. So
and change is, you talk about sharrows and bike lanes. As I always say, the bike lanes are not about a share of the road. They're about a share of the mind. And what we're really going for is a share of the mind right now. So, and we see that in how we use bridges and roads, And so.
Yeah. Well, we will now jump to a very exciting part of the city, and where
just so many things are happening right now.
Many things are happening, and that's the new basin.
Isn't it cool?
So let me go one
An area
back.
that was like scrub, thrown away. It was like
underneath
no
the Zachem Bridge is this wonderful bridge, a gift from the federal government, the Recovery Act, and the skate park is immediately to the left here, and the river is here. And so the North Bank Bridge is really the first of 3 bridges in this area. There is the Bastille Bridge is going to be done by Mass DOT. It will lift up so that when boats come by. And the South Bank Bridge is already designed 25%, and it's going to look just as beautiful as the North Bank Bridge, done with the same designers. And just where the left arrow of the North Bank bridges, that's where the skate park is, which has a lot of bicyclists also. It's full with BMX bikers.
Yeah.
And
the land under interstate highways has really become reclaimed. A lot of times skateboards and bicycles, and it's really interesting properties to look at in urban environments.
yeah, yeah.
And they've done a great job here.
And now we're going to add the swim park, which, you know, again, you take your bike and you go to the swim park. You don't need big parking lots. You
Right.
just, this is an urban environment
And
where a lot of
to
things
the
can
right
happen.
of that picture, Renata, and I know we have limited time, but the North Washington Bridge is going to be
Yes.
redone too,
Yeah,
and that
yeah.
opens up the whole corridor to the North Shore and those communities that have really been restricted with their access.
Yeah, we have, in case you just join us, this show will be on YouTube, and I actually did a show on the North Washington Street Bridge with Miguel Rosales that shows the plan, so you can find that on YouTube. And of course, there's shows on the skate park
Great
and
stuff.
the swim park. But let's look at this interesting map. Tell us about that.
These are hubway stations. Now, here's something that is just 5 years in, and we're approaching right now more than 1 million bike share bikes all over the world. So bike share is one of the exciting things in urban environments. And what I liked about this map is you can see how anybody can grab a hubway, and they're using all these facilities that we're talking about in and around, whether it's the Western Avenue separated bike path, whether it is the Charles River Path, the Paul Dudley White, these bridges, but also they patch right into the Fens and so many great things.
Now, for the people who are not familiar what these green and black balloons mean, can you explain that to us?
You get a card. You can get it for the day. You can get it for the hour. You can be just a
member,
tourist, or you can be a member like I am, and you plug it in and you get to ride for 30 minutes free. You put it back into one of those stations. So you take it out, you put it back in like a library book.
Yeah,
there
like
they
here,
are.
yeah.
They're not sleek. They're not racing bikes, but they're sure
heavy,
are fun.
sturdy.
They are.
And so tell us what the colors now mean here.
Well, that's basically showing what the capacity is at the time as to how many bikes they have. So it's a real-time data that you're getting, and it also is sort of it just is letting you know where they are. One of the biggest problems is when you get the bike, where do I return it? And if it's full,
because you can only return it in a
Right.
hubway.
and if that station's full, you got to find another one. So you have the app on your phone. Cell phones have changed urban living in a lot of ways. But what I liked about this map compared to the other component was as you go farther away from the city center, that's when you're dealing with private bike ownership. But there's other ways of accessing these transportation areas as well. We talked earlier about the Park and Pedal program, which is...
Yeah, let's talk about that. I want to... I wanted to do a show with the founder of it. It's a wonderful program. Tell us about it.
Well, it's funny because David Montague, who's founded the Montague Bikes, a folding bike company, and it's a really simple idea of why don't we use these, now that we have these paths, let's find parking lots that are just outside the edge of the urban centers, and DCR and MassDOT has gotten behind them. You can park for free, get your bike out of your car, ride down the bike paths, and it could be, they're located all around, and you can see that it's been highly effective. And what's funny is you throw your bike on there, and the people that are using it are construction workers and guys that that are not making huge amounts of money, but they're working in the seaport or they're working in Kendall on these construction jobs. They're hilarious. They're smoking cigarettes, they're drinking Dunkies coffee, and they're not bike riders, but they just figured out they park for free, they get to work, they're laughing, they're having fun, and it's just a really great thing, and it sort of interacts with Hubway. Hubway is more for the urban person, but that suburban person can access so much of Boston. One of the things we offer at MassBike, we do bike valet at Fenway Park.
I love that.
And I love it too.
Oh, suddenly you feel like a VIP when your bike is being nicely treated, and you don't have to look for a parking meter to attach your bike to, and many parking meters are gone, so it's hard sometimes to find a place to park your bike.
And quietly, we will park your bike even if you're not going to the game. You can just go shopping,
great.
go to a restaurant.
Well, Richard, we are getting close to the end of our show, but I enjoy your energy to bring, to
running out of it.
bike. No, you're not, because biking gives energy.
It does.
It is a wonderful sport. It's the best way to see a city and to move around. and you can attach your bike, and you're there. You have control over your schedule.
Yeah.
And if this bit rain pants, you can even do it in the rain. So
no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing.
No. So I want to thank you for taking on this job. It's a big job, but a lot of progress can be made, has been made, and will be made because time is on your side.
Well, I followed a lot of great people in front of me, following up with David Watts and other great leaders that did a great job. And I'm really supported by allies such as the Charles River Conservancy and some of our other advocate friends that I couldn't do it without them. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you for watching. You can find this and many other shows with bicycle advocates like Ken Kruckermeyer and Fred Salvucci. Great bicycle advocates have spoken on this program. So they're all there, and Nicole Friedman, of course, was on the program. So if you want to find how to get hold of Richard Fries, here is the contact information, and you should join. You should join MassBike, just like you should support the Charles River Conservancy, because it's advocacy groups that can make a huge difference in your life and in the city, and to make the environment a better place, and you're being healthy doing it.
Fountain of youth.
And exactly. So we have just a few seconds left to let people know about the things that are happening on the Longfellow Bridge. So there's going to be a bit of an improvement outward bound.
One of these days. Yeah.
One of these days. So that is good. So thank you again, Richard.
Thanks for having me.
For that. And we are at the end of the show, and come and watch us again. Thank you very much.